We're moving on to year 2 in the Buffalo Bulls dynasty this week, and today I'm recapping the live stream of the entire offseason, and there's even some never-before-seen footage at the end of the video with stuff I've done leading into our first game. I'll link the full offseason, though, on a YouTube card, and if you want to watch the long version, it is there. It was really fun, and it's probably some pretty good background noise. Going into the offseason, our goal was to create as strong of a recruiting class as we could. It began to show some promise at the end of the year with us getting some key 3-star commitments, but we have a long way to go with this team, of course, after a 3-9 challenging first year. And the first issue I came across was that I couldn't fire our coordinators because apparently I waited a week too long. I have to do it during conference championship week, so I can't change our staff yet. I can only develop Adam Kane as a recruiter. We're not doing anything with that right now as we simulate into Bowl Week. I knew it was possible that Jack Shields would look to transfer away, and he was the guy I projected to be the year 2 quarterback. With CJ Ogbonna graduating, he was the next highest rated guy. Into Bowl Week number 3. We do get a new commitment in 3-star Chet Sanders, a center, giving us 8 players in the class. We do find out that the Kansas State Wildcats are going to be your champions going into year 2 as they top Georgia in the championship game. Little bit of a surprise, they don't have an upper tier roster, but it's certainly a solid one, but they are the champs. When I was simming through, it was pointed out to me in the chat that Buffalo is now a 0-star school. We opened the dynasty as a 1.5 star. Even one win Ball State still has a full star. We are one of only 2 0-star programs now in the entire dynasty. I cannot believe I have actually dropped the prestige of Buffalo football after 1 year. Now you're going to see what that means for us in a little bit. The players leaving stage is next, and nobody decides to transfer. No one's going pro early either. We lose 29 graduating seniors. Pretty quick stage here. Nobody got drafted into the NFL. I had to make sure some of these other 0 and 1-star schools didn't have any pro drafted players either. It seems we're good there. But then we get to our off-season recruiting. I had a handful of players still on the board I really wanted to bring in. Couple 3 stars, getting Chet Sanders when we did was pretty key for us, but Austin Harris was the number 1 player on my board. An athlete who projected as a wide receiver at 6'5", 200 pounds. We have players like Dallas Roche, Ladarius Kennedy in their top 5 stages. Most of these battles, we had either a huge lead or the only offer on those players. So I felt really good about adding some late additions to the board. And then I also wanted to go on a little side quest to see if we could find a new punter at some point. So we only had 450 off-season hours. I still had to take a look at what was available in the transfer portal. So we were not going to be looking, at getting a major upgrade here, but I certainly wanted to see, who is interested most in coming here? Who could possibly be easier to bring in and immediately take on a role? And there are a few players at the top of this list that has us as their number 1 team. There were a couple options down the board that were intriguing. Devin Sherwood, a lot of people in the chat wanted me to go after him, but a transfer junior quarterback wasn't really of interest to me because it's such a small fix, and we had some decent options I felt already on the roster. So instead, I'm looking at some defensive players here primarily. As we lose Sean Dolak, I wanted to try and replace him in the portal. But otherwise, we were going to be looking at trying to just fill it out with the guys we've already been recruiting. And then if there are 3 or 4 portal guys that can help solidify things and give us new starters, that would be a huge plus. So that's what you're seeing here. I had to go very thin, only having 450 hours. So some of these players getting 10, some of them getting 25. And I felt like I had enough points to still scout some punters. And of course, I was not going to get that kick power number quickly at all. Travis Kesey, 10 points after 10 points, and finally we're shown 83, which is enough of an upgrade, and we finally give him an offer. But I probably spent 60 or 75 points in this stage on just punter scouting and that offer. But I did feel like I had enough points to spread around a little bit. We had the number 103 recruiting class. We go from this stage into the following, and there are no decisions made. So we're tracking the progress here. The players who are already on my board don't really have many new teams pursuing them. Ladarius Candidate did get an offer from Michigan State, so I increased the points in that recruiting battle. Kevin Kajus put us into number 1, and he's a really intriguing tight end. And then for the portal players, it seemed we were in really good shape there, especially for Nolan Ziegler. So we were able to set up some visits. Jadarius Green McKnight, Wesley Williams were the other 2 players I was going pretty aggressively for, and it was going to take aggressiveness if we were to top some of those other teams in those recruiting battles. After the following stage, no one commits to us. We do have a couple players make decisions, though, as 1-star Tevin Tull is going to go elsewhere, so he's off to JMU. But a fair amount of these players were down to their final 3 teams, and we were very close to securing commitments. We go down to Travis Kesey. We're the only team to offer to him, so that obviously gives us a boost, even if we're not in his top 9 anywhere on the board. Jadarius Green McKnight favoring Maryland. We had to hope that the Week 3 visit would be enough to overtake them. And then for Wesley Williams, we were in first place, and shockingly nobody else interested in Nolan Ziegler. We get commitments from Jadarius Green McKnight after that stage, along with Wesley Williams, giving us 2 new starters on the defensive side. We're nearing the end of recruiting, and now we have a 10-player class and a 90 ranking. It's so much better than dead last, like it was for much of the year. We were holding off Michigan State for Ladarius Candidate, and most of these battles still favored us pretty significantly. And this is the final stage, so I believe now if you offer to a player, they don't get offers anywhere else, they're going to pick your school, whereas in NCAA 14, sometimes those players just would disappear. Very tight battle here for outside linebacker Darren Conley. That was one of our toughest battles, but we get commitments from Dallas Roche, the 2-star receiver, Ladarius Candidate, the middle linebacker, Nolan Ziegler as well, Austin Harris, our number 1 player, Matteo Buffelli, the 3-star corner, Kevin Kajust at tight end, and the punter Travis Kesey. We finish recruiting with the number 72 class, 18 incoming players for Buffalo. 12 of those players are 3-stars. We had the number 1 class in the conference. I felt like this was overall a success, even if we got off to a very slow start. Now, we had 29 outgoing players, 18 incoming, so I wasn't sure if we'd see a bunch of walk-ons or not. We will certainly get to that shortly. And now we move on from that to position changes. This is where we can assign our athletes their positions. Eric Pacheco was always going to be a quarterback, and then Austin Harris, really intriguing player. He was listed as a physical archetype, so receiver was always my target. His best position, though, is safety. We will follow up on him in a little while. Harris, though, was listed already as our number 3 ranked wide receiver. And now this was before the training stage, but it didn't seem like anybody was going to be able to top him. With Adam Kane's 20 coaching points, I wanted to look at if we could boost anybody's training, so we buy the motivator tree. That costs 10. But we have to go to tier 3 for off-season training boost. We don't have 15 points, we only had 10. So there was no point in spending that now. No boost for season 1. But this recruiting class was enough of a success to take him all the way to level 16 as a coach and earning 90 additional points. Now that was after simulating to the training stage, so I cannot apply those points retroactively or anything, but I do think that overall the Coach XP is awarded to quickly in really every game here, going through Madden and college football, so we're knocking that down to slow. Training results are next. How much better would everybody get? We have now 3 players, 80 overall or higher, and the top is senior Matt Pajust, the right guard. Shockingly, Charles McCarthrins is now topped at his own position by Oliver Bridges, the fastest player on the roster and now the highest rated cornerback. So I like our duo we have going into next year. But at quarterback, the surprise of the offseason is the +5 boost that Gunnar Gray received, going over quarterback Jack Shields. And then we find out Lamar Sperling didn't get any offseason boost. He's now behind Al-J Henderson in terms of his overall. I don't get that. I don't know how offseason training works in this game. It seems pretty random. At receiver, we got Morrow and McMillan, 78 and 75 overall respectively, as 2 returning players from Season 1. At tight end, the new highest rated player is Ryan Daly, the junior, who looks to be our new starter replacing Jake Orlando. Along the offensive line, I like seeing Eric Binns, the left tackle, up to a 77. Center is overall a little bit low. Chet Sanders did show to have really good pass protection, but his run blocking is so low, there's no way I'd start him here as a true freshman. And then Matt Pajust being an 82, he really stands out, and it was pointed to me that he actually has 99 pass block power to go with 90 pass block or run block power. So he is the best player on this offensive line. We're going to be running behind him a lot more often this year, and we're making him as well a team captain. When you assign players at captain, it's supposed to also kind of denote that when you're playing, and you can see, I guess, a logo or something under them. On the defensive side now, you're going to see a massive cluster at defensive end. It's hard to separate these guys with how tight the ratings are. Defensive tackle, though, is quite low with 73, 71, and 70 overall rated players. Junior Poyser is by far the strongest with 61 block shed. I have no idea how to project him as a run stopper. Linebacker to me is promising. The top 3 guys are really good, and now getting Ziegler there in the middle helps give us a good replacement for Sean Dolak. At corner, of course, the 2 juniors in Bridges and McCarthrins. Looks like we're going to have a new slot corner, maybe Jalen McNair or Amir Proctor. We're also going to make McCarthrins a team captain. Don't know what under their F means, but that was something else we laughed about during the offseason. We have a new kicker this year in Nick Reed, who has much better accuracy than our kicker a year ago, and we have a new punter. For encouraging transfers, this is basically the cut stage. We are not cutting anybody. We have a 76-man roster. There is no need to cut anybody. There are no walk-ons. I met all of our position minimums. So, no concern here, but there are 9 open roster spots. We could be thin in a few areas, like linebacker. We then customized the conference. I was helped out in this stage, so I wouldn't mess anything up, because there are some bugs in the game. But we've put UMass and UConn as well in the MAC. So we have an even number. That's kind of something you need to do here, apparently, when you're customizing the conferences. And I wanted to make sure we'd have those teams in there, and I made sure it didn't screw up any of the other conferences. We seem to be good to go for year 2. UMass is actually joining the MAC in real life. I don't believe UConn is, but I wanted that in there. We are going to open the season. This is actually on the real schedule in 2025 at Minnesota. I already planned on playing either Minnesota or UTSA this year, so they made it easy on me. We are going to keep that game as well against the Miami Hurricanes. I think every year we're going to take on somebody ranked highly to see the difference between where we are and them. We're also placing 0-star Louisiana Monroe on our schedule in a battle of the 0 stars, and then Temple, the rival in-game here for Buffalo, will be our third opponent. When we face Miami, they will have the same quarterback that I brought in the transfer portal in my Miami series on the second channel, Nicholas Vadiato. Miami opens as the number 3 team. Next up, we got the red shirt stage. We brought in a number of 3-stars, and I was curious how many of those guys would be ready to play immediately. It's honestly not that many. Eric Pacheco is the first player we redshirt. He does have great speed. He could definitely have packages where he's a good player, but I feel like redshirting him here in year one is the right decision. We are also going to look at wide receiver Dallas Roche, extremely low, 52 overall. We redshirt him and speedster Quincy Witherspoon, who needs some route running development. And then you get to Austin Harris, who's very raw. The route runnings aren't going to be a plus right now. I don't think he's actually our third best option right now because Messiah Birch is actually the best route runner on the team, and he's a 62 overall. We then redshirt the 2 tight ends brought in, including Kevin Cajuste. He has more vertical threat skill than the other tight ends on the team. Don't like that low acceleration, but his route running and run blocking just isn't quite ready. Chet Sanders, I talked about his weaknesses with run blocking. That is going to make him redshirted as a freshman. Dom Camarda is our third highest right guard, and then Nate Fanene. The trio of guys after that Toledo disaster last year all get redshirted. Jermichael Humphreys doesn't really separate in any area compared to our other edge rushers, so we're also going to be redshirting him. At defensive tackle, Ron Ruggins is redshirted, and then at linebacker, we're going to redshirt Ladarius Kennedy, who's only a 60, giving us 6 active linebackers. Pretty thin there. We're going to have Mateo Buffelli get redshirted at corner, as we already have good starters ready to go in place. And then no additional red shirts at safety. We're also going to redshirt last year's punter Mello Dodge, as we're going to move on with Travis Kesey and his stronger leg. After thinking about it during the stream, I did end up redshirting Austin Harris. But what we're able to do in this game is take these players in-game and at least give them a few games of experience. They still maintain redshirt status, which grants them an extra year of eligibility, as long as they play in 4 or less games, and I'll just manage that manually. But here you're going to see the skill caps for all these young recruits I brought in. They're pretty limiting here for Eric Pacheco. His arm's not going to get much stronger. He's a low ceiling quarterback. Leon Dingle, a 68 with impact development. He is a power runner who's not going to really develop his athleticism a ton. He'll become a little bit better as a power back. Austin Harris. These are pretty restrictive caps. He can become a better route runner, but he's probably never going to be polished, and he's going to rely on just being a better athlete than the MAC defenders. Quincy Witherspoon. He doesn't have a lot of room to develop. Maybe a few points of route running, that's really it. Kevin Cajuste was the main player I was concerned with here because he has elite dev and a couple mental abilities. He's supposed to be a level up. He was a 3-star, only a 64 overall, shockingly. And he can develop better as a route runner, but don't expect to see these guys develop into I would be shocked if anybody ends up being an 80+ overall. These are 3-star players. Maybe higher rated 3-star guys have a chance of getting to maybe an 80 overall range, but for the majority of these guys, mid-70s seems to be a ceiling if I'm reading this all correctly with the skill caps. Unless we develop our coaches and we can have a chance at raising those skill caps, that is a thing in the game I haven't really interacted with, then they'd be able to increase their ceiling. Still, they're going to be able to start for Buffalo with the state our program is in. Jermichael Humphreys, I think, actually has a pretty solid ceiling. 71 power moves. It still has a lot of room to grow, but don't expect him to become well-rounded. That's going to be the main thing that he is good at. And then 1-star Ron Ruggins. 3 stars aren't developing a ton, so don't expect 1-stars to do a whole lot either. Ladarius Kennedy, not going to develop much as a run stopper. It's only going to be in coverage, so I think he's more of a backup linebacker, maybe a pass coverage specialist. Mateo Buffelli, man cover archetype. That has a lot more room to grow than his zone, and I would like zone to get better. It's only a 60 right now for him. And then punter Travis Kesey. I'm not really concerned if his leg gets a lot stronger. I knew he'd be an upgrade immediately. It can still get better by 1 notch. Let's spend these 90 coaching points on Adam Kane. We're going back into the recruiter tree, and I'm targeting tier 3 for a lot of these positions. I want to be able to put more hours on players when they really stand out. But also, Adam Kane was a quarterback, of course, in a couple past series, and a golfer. We don't have to talk about that much, but we want to be able to focus on the quarterback side of things to give him that coaching personality. So we're going all the way to tier 4 there. But what we're also going to do here is we spend about the first half of these points. I'm not much of a min-maxer in games like this, especially in a non-competitive, this is not a PvP game. I also want to explore other options. I'm not going all in on recruiting. We're going to open up Tactician now. And what this is going to do is allow us to boost actual ratings. And we're going all the way to tier 4 on quarterback, as that is Adam Kane's focus. We're going to get boost to accuracy and a whole host of ratings. And we're also going to focus on the offensive line because those guys help support the quarterback. And now we might not get points as quickly now that I've knocked down the speed of which we get those points. I wish I had done that from day 1, honestly. So we'll see what happens over the course of Season 2. But now it's time to look at our new scouting board and talk about what life is like recruiting as a 0-star program. The first thing I always do is take a look at what players are actually interested in us right off the bat. And this season, it's pretty much all 1-star players. No 2-star players have us as their top team, and certainly no 3s, 4s, or 5s. We are recruiting at a much greater disadvantage here because of this starting point, but also going to a 0-star program means we now have less resources to scout. This is preseason, and I have only 375, after being used to having 400 every week last year in season. We now have less hours to try and build this team, and now the average player interested in coming here is far lower rated than before. I don't know what to expect from recruiting this year, but I know we only have 15 seniors. We want to bring in, obviously, a quarterback we can try developing into our long-term starter. Not that long-term means a whole lot in college, but a guy who could be around for a few years. I did end up putting a couple higher-rated players on the board just to see and try. Could we bring in maybe a 4-star that's in a pipeline that's not getting a ton of attention right now and has a really good deal breaker that favors us? Sidney Peppers checks those boxes. He's on the board. Then we're going down to 3 stars that also are in a pipeline, and we put on a couple more corners, including Alfonso Magnifico and Cortez Shed. Switching over to quarterback now. We are not going to be able to recruit anybody that's extremely high rated. I also said that I would not be recruiting any more of the scrambling athlete quarterbacks because they've been overpowered in this game. And I don't have the newest patch installed, so I don't have them nerfed yet. But I did find 4 quarterbacks I wanted to put on the board. Beginning here with 3-star Ray Elway, the number 76 quarterback in the country. I really like where his ratings are right off the bat. I think his arm is strong enough, especially as a day 1 player. He seems to be the kind of player that if we could bring in, could develop into a multi-year starter for us. Ray Elway to the top of the board. Sidney Peppers. I really didn't need to spend the effort here scouting. He's a 4-star player. I don't need to see the ratings, although his ratings are good. I handed out some scholarships here and did some scouting. Looking at these defensive backs, I had 5 cornerbacks on the board, and we gave out, I think, 4 offers. Alfonso Magnifico. Gem. We want to try to bring in as many of those as we can, so he gets the offer. And then I just began handing out scholarship offers, especially if they're 4-star. I just wanted to try to build out our board right away and see, okay, who's realistic for us to go after. I knew for most of these battles it would not work out, but you have to really cast that wide net early, see what's possibly out there for you, and then you start to reduce the board, take off the players that you know you're not going to get, and see how strong that remaining board is going to be. We sim from preseason into week 0 where we didn't have a game. giving us an additional week of recruiting to look into. We right away can start to take off players, of course, that lock us out, and then I wanted to see who would get those immediate scholarship offers. And there are a few players here like Peppers who got an early offer from Miami, and I don't think that's going to be very competitive for us. But we were number one for Ray Elway, which was excellent news. He's somebody we're going to be very aggressive in pursuing. Now, we're going to follow up on recruiting with my footage at the end of it, but we had to get into practice because I wanted to see mainly the quarterbacks. Number 9 is Gunnar Gray, the senior, and immediately upon putting him into the game with his 93 throw power, the ball just flies out of his hand. You're not just getting the ability to stretch the field with high throw power, but you're getting faster pass velocity. He also happens to have a pretty quick release, so he can really hit some windows that would never have been hittable in Season 1. I would like to be a much more run-oriented team this year, but Gunnar Gray is extremely intriguing. He has some serious arm talent, and I can't believe some of the throws he was hitting. After getting used to a full season of CJ Ogbonna, whose throw power was an 85, this feels like an entirely different game now. So Jack Shields was originally going to be my plan at quarterback, and now here he is in the game, number 8. He only has 86 throw power, and from the looks of things, throw power isn't seeming to really limit players' ability to throw it downfield. I feel like the velocity on the throw is a lot more notable, and there probably is like a max distance difference. From a clean pocket with like set feet, these quarterbacks can all kind of blend in with each other with their arm talent, but when they get on the move and they start attempting more difficult throws, that's where I think Gray really stands out more. And that's not to mention their accuracy ratings are really similar. Gunnar Gray just simply has the edge, and there's more you can do with this arm talent. He's got kind of a funky delivery, like he's kind of Phillip Rivers-like, but the ball gets there, it gets there on time, and some of these throws were just ridiculous. Now you're going to get a look at freshman quarterback Eric Pacheco, a lefty with 85 throw power, and obviously this is not an issue stretching the field. But the limitations do eventually show up, and his accuracy is very low. To me, Pacheco probably projects best as a package quarterback who has a couple of formations where he can come in, maybe do some option stuff and add a wrinkle to the offense. I'm less thinking now that he has a chance to really be a starting quarterback unless we had a scheme overhaul. This throw to me really showed off the difference in the throw power because that was significantly underthrown. These like 20 to 30 yard passes really show the difference in arm talent. Then you go to Gunnar Gray, who can do stuff like this and hit that window to Quincy Witherspoon flying up the sideline. So my plan early on is to have Gunnar Gray be our starting quarterback. But I want to try to not get too carried away here with the arm talent and the excitement here, because I think running the ball is going to be our best approach. Here you're seeing Austin Harris on a couple plays not really separate as easily with that lower route running. His speed is his number one strength. And I can't wait to see if he grows into a player that can make an impact like Chance Morrow. Now let's move on to what I was doing after the live stream. After seeing how the first week went and the progress with these players, I can now set our board. We have 300 hours each week. 100 less per week than all of last year. In some cases, I'm not even scouting players. Top 70 at your position, probably good enough to play here in Buffalo. So the board has mostly us putting 25 points into players, because if I go and send the house, I could have 6 guys, maxed out. It's not my approach right now. You can max out 5 guys and have 50 points to spend on scouting. It's so limiting. So 25 is kind of the baseline, and then above that for a few of the key players. I gotta give up here on Sidney Peppers. I have 300 hours. I cannot afford to be wasting hours on battles we're likely going to lose. So if there's a larger program already with an offer and we have to come from behind in the battle, you got to pick your battles wisely. We're not winning those. I want to be recruiting from a position of strength, not trying to pull off comebacks. So we sim through week 0 into the next week where we're actually going to have our game. Ray Elway has us already by far his favorite team, and we have a chance already to set up a visit with him. And Ray Elway from Jersey City, New Jersey, creative name there, by the way, is going to be visiting in week 2 against Louisiana Monroe. Battle of the Zero Stars. And then we are going to hard sell, hoping proximity to home also ends up being one of his top 3 motivations. 65 points into Elway. We got 35 going to the receiver Trejo, who has dynamic speed. We have Cortez Shed getting 30. And then we're going to put an extra 5 into Grant Van Manen. I don't know how to do the double A there. But he is a top 15 safety that has us as his top school. So he's also going to be getting a bit more of the focus. And just to really illustrate the experience of our team here going into year 2. You think like year 1 to year 2, there's a whole lot of progress. And we have some returning players, but here are the career stats, which are only going to show the numbers from season 1. Thankfully, there's some returning experience on offense, and then we have a new quarterback that I'm excited to see on this team. Defensively, we return 12 players that played meaningful snaps last year, but very little pass rush production is going to be on this team. The D-line concerns me a lot. We have a bunch of players all clustered there with like 75 to 79 power moves or finesse moves. So we're going to just see who ends up separating there, who makes a notable difference. But I think we're going to struggle against the run. And we're also going to have to see what this offense looks like now that our quarterback is not going to be a rushing threat. So I want to be more run heavy. I want to use Leon Dingle as a true freshman power back. And Lamar Sperling's going to be the guy there in the backfield. But is this offense going to be able to take a step forward with that change, running behind Matt Pajust? Here I'm sorting by a bunch of ratings to show you who stands out across the team. I always think it kind of shows the talent level at certain areas with the team. So here we get to the receiver ratings, and actually Jonathan Capo has the best hands on the team, oddly enough. A lot of our DBs are better at catching the ball than our actual receivers. Chance Morrow and Messiah Birch are the best route runners on the team, so the plan is to have Birch play the slot, even though he has only 67 catching. Accuracy-wise, it's pretty clustered, but I think that Gunnar Gray has the best combination of arm strength, accuracy, and other skills like throw under pressure, break, sack. I think he'll be our best option here right off the bat. Then with the offensive line, obviously Matt Pajust is our best player, so he's going to stand out with the 2 power ratings. His actual, just run block rating, though, isn't the best on the team. I feel like there are a few backups that have a couple standout ratings that are going to allow them to develop, as we probably have to replace a couple starters every year. And then for pass rush, we're replacing our pass rushers from last year, and the ratings are so clustered, I'm just going to be playing everybody, and until someone stands out, makes splash plays, gets consistent pressure, I have no idea who's going to be starting most of the year. So that's going to be the most fluid area of the entire team. Now, we do return a lot of our starting secondary players, but notice here, Austin Harris, 73-man, 72 zone coverage. He could also have a good future as a safety. His press isn't high enough to play corner, but I think he has a chance to be a two-way player for us. With his athleticism and receiver skills, even if they don't develop significantly, I think we'll be able to make an impact in the MAC. And at 6'5", with his athleticism and those cover skills, I think you'd want to see him at safety as well. So in the future, maybe there's a position change if he's too close to his receiver caps or something, but I think he's going to be playing both sides of the football in this dynasty. Now, our season's going to get underway against the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and I think this is a really even matchup. I'm not all that impressed with their offense. You know, when you consider a Big Ten offense, I think that we are on their level, and I'm excited to get this new season underway. We blew a bunch of games a year ago. It was so bad we went 3-9 and became a zero-star program. We have even more work to do now because of those recruiting problems. Being that zero-star gives us a much tougher starting point. So year 2 needs to be a lot better for Adam Kane and the Buffalo Bulls. What do you think about this team going into the new year, and what players are you most excited to see take the field? Let me know down below, and later this week, we're going to Minnesota to try and start year 2 with a big win. Thank you all for watching today's video. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more of this Buffalo Bulls dynasty. We went through year 1 quickly, and while Madden 25 is now out. Yes! Here we go! I know where I'm spending majority of my time this year. See ya in week 1, everybody. Have a great day.